So the fate of the world could be in President Biden's hands. And suffice it to say, many people are extremely concerned. President Biden has been very inactive lately. He has not been one to pressure other countries to do something that he feels right. He's actually been hiding, taking a step back and hoping other countries step forward and do what he wants them to do, but without asking. Yeah, it's difficult. And this is why some say that President Biden is not the one to lead the United States. Now, we're going to get to what is going on today. There's some major changes that could take effect today. This is big. One has to do with the United Nations. I will address what's going on there, why this is huge news, not only for us here in the United States, but for many people abroad. Because again, what happens today, which could be dictated by President Biden, this will play a major role in the wars between Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Hamas. So make sure you stick around and watch this entire video. All I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So first off, the big news that is coming out today has to do with the United Nations. Look at this. It says the U.S. is about to make a decision at the UN that could change Gaza's fate. Now, what does that mean? Well, here's what I can tell you. Right now, the United States and the United Nations, they're going to vote today. I'll go ahead and read this, okay? It says right here, the best chance right now to improve the desperate situation in Gaza where millions of people are under bombardment while on the brink of starvation amid a U.S.-backed Israel military operation hinges on America's choice at the United Nations. It says the UN Security Council will vote Tuesday, today, on a resolution proposed by the United Arab Emirates, a close U.S. partner, on behalf of Arab and Muslim states that calls for limiting the fighting and dramatically increasing humanitarian aid for Gazans. Now, that is key because previously at the United Nations, the United States voted and vetoed the resolution for a ceasefire. That was what was requested a week or 2 weeks ago. Now, they're not requesting a ceasefire. Now what they're requesting is to limit the fighting and dramatically increase humanitarian aid. The United States will most likely be on board with this, but once they do, that's going to pressure Israel to limit fighting and increase humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. Again, these are very important because if this happens, this resolution goes through, guess what? Israel will need to do what is proposed here. If they don't, then the United States will have a decision. Do we continue to push through this $14.3 billion in additional assistance to Israel? Or do we pretty much scrap that idea, limit any additional funding for Israel, and now we just provide additional humanitarian aid to Gaza? Again, it's a big, big deal. But the reason why this is all happening right now is because this is what some are saying is the breaking point. Hamas is getting very close to breaking. Same thing, Israel is getting very close to getting to Hamas. But at the same time, they need some additional help. But as all this stuff is unfolding, as fighting is going on underground in tunnels, the people of Gaza are starving. They are cold. They don't have a place to go. They don't have medication. They don't have running water. They don't have electricity. There's a lot of things that they're lacking. And so now the world is pointing the finger and saying, Israel, you need to slow down because it's you that is doing this. But it doesn't just start and end with Israel. We also have additional information on Ukraine. Look at this. It says the U.S. will run out of Ukraine aid by December 30th. This is according to the White House. They provided this warning. Well, this explains why the White House has been pushing for additional aid to Ukraine over the past month. Because they say that if Ukraine does not get additional funding, then Russia will win this war. Russia will be closer to more NATO states, and that could actually push an attack. And again, President Biden was warning us before, and he threatened the American people, saying if you do not agree to additional funding for Ukraine, then you better step up, strap your boots on, because you will be fighting Russian soldiers very soon. Yeah, what a threat that was. Now, the reason why I bring all this up is because something that happened yesterday. Senate Republicans pretty much shut the door on a quick Ukraine aid and border deal. Now, you're probably thinking, why would Republicans not want to pass a bill that has some funding for Ukraine, but also has a border security deal in there? Well, it's actually pretty simple. They say that there were still too many issues. The Republicans say hurdles remain in border talks as Ukraine is waiting. It's the border legislation. That is where things are getting hung up. But according to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, he says we cannot afford to get this wrong, that the border Ukraine talks are still going on. That's what we know. Now, I want to read you some of these statements from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Because just yesterday, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said, "While the job is not finished, I'm confident we're heading in the right direction." He says, "Finding a middle ground is exceptionally hard, and both sides must accept they will have to make concessions, and it's going to take some more time to get it done. But we must succeed." Key word, it's going to take more time. More time means something is not happening today. It's not going to happen this week. Yes, the Senate will continue and lawmakers will continue to work on this. They will negotiate. They will hopefully go back and forth and have a plan in place probably in January. But this means the funding for Ukraine before December 30th, out of the question. This also means that other countries will need to step up. And I talked about this the other day, and I said that President Biden is hiding. Okay? He is cowering in a corner because he doesn't want to make the decision, and he doesn't want to come out and ask other countries for additional help. So what he's been doing is nothing. Sitting and waiting. So now other countries are protecting the Red Sea. The United States is as well. But other countries are jumping in to protect the Red Sea. Other countries are saying that they will attack the Yemen Houthis if they continue to bombard ships in the Red Sea. Other countries are stepping forward and say that they need to look at additional assistance and more aid packages to Ukraine to prevent Russia from taking over. Now other countries are stepping forward. So the interesting part about all this is that the fate of the world has been in President Biden's hands. But at the same time, he is looking after the United States. But some say he's not the one running these things. He's not the one really in charge. He's the face of the nation, but that's about it. Now, we're going to see what happens moving forward, but let's continue on with what Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell had to say. Because he says, there are a number of significant issues our colleagues are still working to resolve. Our colleagues at the negotiating table are clear-eyed about the fact that getting this agreement right and producing legislative text is going to require some time. He also added that Republican negotiators are committed to continuing to make progress over the coming week and beyond. There is simply no room for falling short here. We cannot afford to get this wrong. Now, over the next few weeks, we are really going to get some answers, okay? We are going to get some answers as to what this deal is going to look like. Because again, keep in mind, even though that the Republican Party is trying to protect the U.S. border, we also have to protect our interests in other countries. For example, Ukraine, Israel, right? Just the Middle East in general, okay? And so right now, that's where things are at. But here's where things get even more interesting. Like I said, other countries are stepping forward to protect the Red Sea. Because right now, the United States has put naval ships in the Red Sea to protect our interests and to protect ships that are going through. But here's what we know. All eyes are on the Suez Canal as container ships shipping giants halt passage through the Red Sea. The Red Sea accounts for about 12% of all international shipping. Okay, global shipping. 12%. That's a decent amount. And if ships like Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd, we now know BP, they are pausing all shipments in the Red Sea. They don't want to do it because they are worried about the risks. Okay, so they're going to go elsewhere. This means that there's going to be delays in shipping. There's also going to be price increases if the shipping route is longer. Again, keep that in mind. But it doesn't stop there. We also know that liquid natural gas vessels begin to reroute away from the Red Sea on rising tensions. We knew this was coming. This is a big problem as we're getting into the colder months. The LNG, the liquid natural gas, this is something that is needed in many countries. The problem is, as we're getting into these colder months and this supply is limited and delayed, guess what? Prices will increase or you run out of natural gas. Again, two problems. Remember how I said other countries are going to step forward and going to help the United States and President Biden? Well, here's what we know. The UK and France are reiterating that Russia's invasion of Ukraine must end in failure as U.S. aid falters. This is something that's interesting, and many people brought this up, that President Biden didn't plan on other countries jumping in. That wasn't his plan. His plan was very simple. He wanted to be the one that saved the world. Right? He wanted to provide all the funding to Ukraine, all the funding to Israel, all the humanitarian assistance, all that stuff. The problem is there's so many domestic the politics here in the U.S. It's a big cause for concern, and this is why many people say that he just can't do it. He just can't do it. It's too much for the United States. We did way too much over the course of the pandemic, and now trying to do everything for this, it's just too much. The United States can't afford it. Here's something else the United States can't afford. The United States cannot afford to be the only one protecting the Red Sea. So the United States announced a new task force to counter the Houthi Red Sea threat. Now I want to read you this because, again, this is from Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin just yesterday. It says U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced a new maritime task force intended to protect commercial vessels traveling through the Red Sea. Goes on to say, the recent escalation of reckless Houthi attacks originating from Yemen threatens the free flow of commerce, endangers innocent mariners, and violates international law. This is an international challenge that demands collective action. So, the countries involved in this new task force, which they are naming Operation Prosperity Guardian, includes the United States, UK, Bahrain, Canada, France, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Seychelles, and Spain. Okay? Goes on to say the attacks in the Red Sea, which handles about 12% of world trade as a key waterway for goods and energy, have emerged as a fresh threat to global supply chains and an extension of the hostilities in the Gaza Strip. Here's the main thing you need to take away from this. We are now putting together a new task force. Yes, the United States is not the only one. There's multiple countries here. That's the good news. The next one is that we are now seeing the chaos from Gaza spread. That is exactly what we wanted to prevent. So, good news is other countries are stepping forward to help the United States, which means it takes some of the pressure off of us. But as to what happens moving forward, that we don't know. We will find out, and I promise I'll be here every step of the way. All you got to do is two things. First, hit the like button on this video. Also, click that subscribe button so you never miss an update. But that is what we have for you guys today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.